91. Sutra 91, Section 12, Sutra 49, the Noble Disciple Sutra. The Blessed One was dwelling in Sravasti. The Blessed One said, Bhikkhus, a well-learned noble disciple, does not think thus. When what exists, what exists? When what arises, what arises? When what exists, do formations exist? When what exists, does consciousness exist? When what exists, does name and form exist? When what exists, do the six sense bases exist? When what exists, does contact exist? When what exists, does feeling exist? When what exists, does craving exist? When what exists, does clinging exist? When what exists, does becoming exist? When what exists, does birth exist? When what exists, does aging and death exist? Instead, Bhikkhus, the well-learned noble disciple, understands by himself, without relying on others, as it really is. When this exists, that exists. When this arises, that arises. When ignorance exists, formations exist. When formations exist, consciousness exists. Winky face. When consciousness exists, name and form exists. When name and form exists, the six sense bases exist. When the six sense bases exist, contact exists. When contact exists, feeling exists. When feeling exists, craving exists. When craving exists, clinging exists. When clinging exists, becoming exists. When becoming exists, birth exists. When birth exists, aging and death exists. He understands thus. This is how the world originates. Bhikkhus, the well-learned noble disciple, also does not think thus. When what does not exist, what does not exist? When what ceases, what ceases? When what does not exist, do formations not exist? When what does not exist, does consciousness not exist? When what does not exist, does name and form not exist? When what does not exist, do the six sense bases not exist? When what does not exist, does contact not exist? When what does not exist, does feeling not exist? When what does not exist, does craving not exist? When what does not exist, does clinging not exist? When what does not exist, does becoming not exist? When what does not exist, does birth not exist? When what does not exist, does aging and death not exist? Instead, Bhikkhus, the well-learned noble disciple, understands by himself, without relying on others, as it really is. When this does not exist, that does not exist. When this ceases, that ceases. When ignorance does not exist, formations do not exist. When formations do not exist, consciousness does not exist. Winky face. When consciousness does not exist, name and form does not exist. When name and form does not exist, the six sense bases do not exist. When becoming does not exist. When birth does not exist. When birth does not exist, aging and death does not exist. He understands thus. This is how the world ceases. Bhikkhus, when a noble disciple thus understands as it really is the origination and cessation of the world, this is called a noble disciple who has attained right view, who has arrived at the door of the deathless. This is the 9th Sutra. Explanation. 1. This sutra primarily teaches the principle of dependent origination, 12 links, explaining how all worldly phenomena arise from causes and conditions, and cease when those causes and conditions disperse. 2. The noble disciple does not need to question these causal relationships, but can directly understand and realize these truths. 3. The text explains the law of dependent origination from both positive, arising, and negative, cessation aspects. 4. One who truly understands these principles is a noble disciple with right view, standing at the door of nirvana, the deathless. Deep analysis of the sutra's profound meaning. Analysis of core teachings. 1. The nature of dependent origination. This sutra expounds the most fundamental truth of the universe and life. All things arise from the combination of causes and conditions, and cease when these conditions disperse. Nothing exists independently. All phenomena are part of an interconnected, mutually influencing network of relationships. 2. The 12 links of dependent origination. Ignorance formations consciousness, name and form, sixth sense, bases contact, feeling, craving, clinging, becoming, birth, aging, and death. This is a complete system of life's cycle, revealing the fundamental causes and processes of samsara, cyclic existence. Each link is closely connected to others, forming the causal chain of life. 3. Characteristics of noble wisdom. True, noble ones do not dwell on concepts and doubts. They can directly experience the truth of these causal relationships. This wisdom is intuitive, independent inner awareness, not relying on others. 2. Deep philosophical reflections. 1. The nature of existence. While we typically perceive things as independently existing, in reality, everything exists in interdependence. There is no permanent, unchanging self-nature. Everything is in constant flux. 2. The truth of life. Life is not random, but the inevitable result of causal chains. Every present moment is the intersection of countless causes and conditions. Understanding this helps us better grasp the nature of life. 3. The possibility of liberation. Understanding dependent origination shows us the path to liberation. When ignorance is eliminated, the entire causal chain collapses. This is the meaning of the door to the deathless. 3. Practical implications. 1. Observing life. Notice cause and effect relationships in daily life. Understand how our actions influence the future. Cultivate wisdom in viewing all phenomena. 2. Direction of practice. Don't remain stuck in theoretical discussions. Seek direct realization and understanding. Apply the wisdom of dependent origination in daily life. 3. Path to liberation. Recognize that ignorance is the root of afflictions. See the truth through wisdom. Gradually eliminate attachments and progress toward liberation. 4. Modern significance. 1. Scientific perspective. Modern science also discovers the truth of universal interconnectedness. Ecology, quantum physics, etc. confirm the principles of dependent origination. This ancient wisdom resonates with modern scientific understanding. 2. Psychological insights. Understanding causality helps us better manage emotions. Seeing the root of afflictions promotes mental health. Cultivating wisdom brings inner peace. 3. Social implications. Recognizing interdependence between people. Developing responsibility and empathy. Building more harmonious relationships. This sutra is not merely a theoretical system, but a guide to life. It teaches us that through understanding and realizing dependent origination, we can attain true wisdom and find the path to liberation. This wisdom is not book knowledge, but profound insight gained through direct experience. It helps us transcend appearances to see the essence of life, ultimately reaching the door to the deathless, the state of nirvana.